So sorry about not having a video out last week. It's the holidays and New Year's and mainly Christmas. But I've been busy with stuff. So what I'm going to do right now is start this video with a short little story, something that actually happened to me recently. Namely, I was out and about singing in Spanish with a group of strangers who I didn't know about, and the thought occurred to me about how to protect my information from these strangers. And while I was thinking about this singing in Spanish, I realized that what most people do are use keys in real life. That's how you protect, your home from strangers coming in, stealing your stuff, your TV. Actually happened to us once. So then I realized, why don't I use that in order to solve one of the security concerns behind my GitHub project? So as you can hopefully see right now, this is my GitHub page. Link in the description below, naturally. Or you can look up JLO64 on GitHub. And as you can see here, what's pinned on the top is Hardware Donations desktop app. This is the Python application I've been working for a while now, and that I'll be demonstrating. Click there. So, that took a while to load. This is what you see down below on the lower 2/3 of the screen are all the files that come included with this. And I'm going to give a brief description of how to install this, and installation instructions are included in the README, as you can see right here. So what I'm about to do right now is one of many different methods that people can use to download or install programs using Git. In Linux especially, you can just use the terminal. I'm going to be using my code editor for this. I know on Windows there's Git Desktop, so you have a variety of different options for this, as long as you stick somewhat close to this requirements sheet here that I have. So, come to think of it, I actually don't have the clone instructions. Well, something to commit later. Anyway, go into clone or download, click on the thing there, the keyboard or clipboard. Those things are expensive, by the way. Once tried to buy one, and it was like 15 bucks, so not worth it. It was a cheap plastic one, not even a wood one. Alright, so you click on the clipboard, that means you have this downloaded. And now, switch over to Visual Code, and what you can do right here is if you hit Control-Shift-P, this gives you access to all of the commands within Visual Code. Type in git clone, or, well, as well do it just to demonstrate. Git clone. You paste in the repository URL that you were given. Voila, you were given a prompt to save it. This should be the same process for Windows. Of course, I don't use Windows, as Carson will most definitely know. Don't forget to dislike this video, by the way, like you did with the last one, Carson. Everybody else, please like. Just select the directory to save this repository in. Select repository location. And it is now cloning a copy of it that is saved in the cloud to this computer. Open. Voila! We have my Python program now downloaded onto your computer if you follow these instructions. If not, that's okay. So you might be wondering right now, that's great and all, Julian, but, by the way, that's my name, Julian Lopez. Hopefully I said that in the intro. But what is this desktop app? Who are you? What is Hardware Donations? I'll make it quite simple. Hardware Donations is a group I set up that donates refurbished computers to people in need or without access to them. And this desktop app is one way of it interfacing with the databases, that's the right word, databases I have set up, and web applications that I've created using Amazon Web Services, video to come on that soon, that can be used, that can use for our advantage. In this case, what this application will be able to do is to flash a copy of our disk images onto computers, search databases, or download useful material, or other stuff. I'll explain that stuff later in the video. So as it turns out, I forgot I already installed all the dependencies for my project to my laptop right here. So the point I was going to make is that if you just clone the project, it won't work, and you have to, go through the instructions that I have on the README. But I don't have the time, / am too lazy to uninstall all of those programs and then reinstall them for you to see. So they're fairly straightforward. I have them in a single file that you can just have pip open. So this is it. This is the project. So just right off the bat, install ArcOS does nothing as of right now. I already have the code written for this. We're going into the history of this project now. So for those of you that don't know, this project actually started off as a bash script. Bash is a programming language that you can work directly with in Linux. It's a very bad idea to work with it for complex projects, which is what I realized quickly after a while. Initially it was just to download ISOs and flash said ISOs onto devices. It wasn't a good idea to work with like that. I'm not gonna lie. It was a pain. Bash is easy, but once you start getting into logic and stuff like that, it's... So that's why I switched over to Python for this project, because with Python, you have an actual logic system that isn't a pain to work with, and on top of that, you can run system commands, at least in Linux, from Python. So it's great to work with. So install ArcOS. I have the code for that in a bash format, and if I was really lazy, which, who knows, maybe I am, I could literally just say, hey, I would point the application to run the bash script, and the bash could take over from there, if I'm super lazy, which, maybe. We'll see how that plays out in the next month or so. Next thing of merit is go to YouTube channel. That directs you here to this amazing YouTube channel. By the way, if you just stumble across this video, hi, subscribe, or don't leave a dislike like Carson. Settings is settings, exits, download files, downloads a bunch of different files that can be found. And I think it's a good idea to demonstrate now how the program works, because I am too lazy to work on a GUI or graphical user interface. So what I did instead, I played once an old game called the Oregon Trail. Love it. Never actually beaten it. I've always died or had my friends be a jerk and make us drown. But what you can do is type in 4, and that corresponds to go to YouTube channel. Hit enter, and won't see it here because it's in a different desktop I have open. Okay. And there you go, my beautiful YouTube channel that took forever to load on my old laptop. God, I look terrible. On to more pleasing things though. You're going to click 3, or type 3, and hit enter. It downloads a list of files I have stored on Amazon Web Services, more on that to come in another video. And you have 4 different categories to download from. Let's type PDF. And the second one that you have here is titled How Amazon Web Services Helps Companies Grow. Probably heard Amazon Web Services, AWS. What is this stuff? Until I get around to making a video for this, which, let's face it, that's a lot of research and sitting around doing nothing, which I don't like to do. You can just hit 2, and it downloads it for you onto your computer. It selects the PDF files under hardware donations, and the file is downloaded. And as you can see, this is a paper written by Julian Lopez, that deals with Amazon Web Services in its entirety. Final paper. I never found out what I got on this for a grade, since it was a final. but it's a good introduction into what it is, how big of a monopoly. Well, it's not quite a monopoly, but it is scary big. So if you want, download it using this application, just to download this one PDF. Or, more likely, what I'm going to do is leave a link to this in the description below. So by now you're probably wondering, okay Julian, why haven't I heard of this project before? Or why wasn't it on GitHub until a couple of days ago? The reason for this is quite simple. It has to do with the second category that we have here, browse database, and with a little something called security. Now, security is something I'm bad at. People don't trust me when it comes to secrets, rightfully so. I can't keep them. So I just like to not lie. And up until now, I've had this Android application for hardware donations right here. Now, the way the code works for this Android project of mine, which you could download from the Google Play Store, but don't, and I'll explain why in just a second, is that this phone directly interfaces with Amazon's databases. In this case, DynamoDB service, which you can read. You actually can't read about that. I didn't include that in there. Okay, which you can Google or DuckDuckGo if you're like me. Anyway, because it directly interfaces from them, that means I have all the code to interface with those databases, which include user information, password, units, that kind of stuff. So very sensitive data. So naturally, it's a bad idea to just release that very sensitive code onto the internet for anybody to steal. And this is most definitely not ideal for an open source project. Up until now, this hasn't really been that big of an issue since I am hardware donations. Screw you, Carson. But if I wanted to go open source, which I want to do, because I'm a college student, I don't have that much time, I'm lazy, blah blah blah, I need to take care of this. That's where a beautiful service called Amazon AWS Lambda, I have to think about Half-Life for that one, comes in. Let's demonstrate this. Type in 2, browse database, hit enter, and here, 64, I'm going to have to blur my credentials here. And login successful. You want to save your login credentials. This is also very important, and this is actually the main reason why I wrote this, made this video in the first place. Yes. So right now it's completely bare bones. You cannot do anything with it at all. But what's important about it is what it can do. So before we get into that, let's talk about what AWS Lambda is in the first place. It's probably one of my favorite services that Amazon offers, and in short, it allows you to run code on Amazon servers without having to rent out the entire server, which can get pricey over time. For instance, in my scenario that we have right here, at most you're going to have 2 logins per day, and that is not worth it to rent a server 24/7 for that. So instead, what you can do is have code uploaded to AWS Lambda, and once it receives an invocation, such as this one right here, it can just react to that in the cloud. So I first started working with Amazon Web Services Lambda. Oh my god. No, I have no clue what's wrong with me. AWS Lambda is one of my favorite services, but I just cannot say it when I'm on camera. So AWS Lambda I've used before, specifically in generating labels, like the one on the screen you're hopefully seeing right now. And it's simple. I've used it before, just to generate the image, does that. But that only generated an image. It didn't generate a response before, such as a key. So what that required was some big brain thinking there. So what you might have noticed is that it said, do you want to save your credentials? You said yes. What that does, it doesn't just save your credentials for one time, it saves it for all the other times. So in the file called login info, which is generated, I'm not going to bother saying where it's located. If you really want to know, just look through the code yourself. You can see here in a JSON object that 3 different strings are generated. Key 1, key 2, key 3. What do these keys mean? I'm not telling you. So in theory, yes, could break it, but because of the encryption I have on here, the fact that it's randomly sorted, strings, all that kind of good stuff, very hard to break. Basic, but hard to break. Even if I tried, without a sample of the code, I wouldn't be able to, without the entire code actually, not even a sample, I wouldn't be able to decode these, quite frankly. Alright, so if you've managed to suffer through this horribly made video, even though I have a script down below, you're probably wondering, okay, this is nice and cool, but what does that mean for me? 2 things. 3 things, actually. One, if you're somebody who has worked with hardware donations in the past, and you're kind of like, oh, hey, I know coding, I don't know what to do though, this is something to work with. Figure out how to use Git. It's fairly simple, especially if you have Windows and you have access to Git Desktop. Download it and make a change and upload it. Doesn't matter if it's even just a grammatical error or something extremely basic at all, just do it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Oh my god, I'm actually saying that. In the description down below, I have a script of this video that I'm currently reading off of right now. Link to the GitHub repository for this project, and a link to the AWS paper that I have. Bye.